guys, have you heard that grades are dropping with distance learning? Well, that's the news on the street. If so, in this video, I'm going to talk about how and why that's happening, and I'm also going to talk about what you can do to stem the negative effects of distance learning. If you're wondering who I am, my name is Brooke. I'm an independent college consultant and tutor. I've been teaching SAT and ACT prep as well as college admissions coaching for the last decade and a half plus. You can find out more about what I do at SupertutorTV.com, where we've got a couple of online courses for both the SAT and the ACT. I've coached students to perfect scores on both of those, and I wrapped all my advice into those courses. I've also got a couple of books on Amazon.com you can go check out, and we're on social media. That's totally free, as well as our mailing list, also free, SupertutorTV.com/subscribe. Finally, subscribe to our YouTube channel if you haven't yet. It's super awesome and super cool, and we'll give you lots of news and advice on college admissions and everything kind of related to it. So, San Jose Mercury News recently reported that Bay Area schools are trending downward in terms of grades. It appears that with distance learning, more students are flunking and getting grades of F overall in their district. For example, they give an example of the Sequoia Union High School district in Redwood City, that those with one or more failing grades went from 19.7% of the student body to 29%, which is not awesome. The LA Times also reports a rise in failures, namely in grades of D or F, across the Los Angeles Unified School District, based on a 10-week assessment that's coming in the fall. What happened with LAUSD is they basically passed everybody in the spring of 2020 because of coronavirus and uneven distance learning situations in the district. They just passed everybody or froze grades, right? And I know a lot of students, they had their districts freeze their grades, yes. And I think what that promoted among a lot of students was this idea that oh, distance learning is just a pause button. We'll get back to real school soon. This doesn't count. I don't have to plug in. I'm just going to ignore it. But now that distance learning has become our new reality, that kind of mentality isn't floating very well. And I think it's unfortunate that schools kind of had that attitude in the spring. At the same time, I understand that school districts were in a tough place. They didn't know what was going on. They were hoping this was super temporary. And we were all hoping that everyone would be back to normal and back in school by the fall, which totally didn't happen, at least not in California. In some places it has, but certainly life is not back to normal, and we're not done with our pandemic time. Shucks. So what do we do about it? That's what I'm really going to get to in this video, is how do you combat the proposition of failing grades and lower grades and disengagement from students? What do we do to make distance learning more effective? How do we get people more engaged? So I have 4 ideas here. And again, they're just ideas. It's up to you guys to take off with them. So my first piece of advice, I know it sounds self-serving. I don't mean it to be. It's more that I know more about this particular vertical than anything else, which is private tutoring. Now, I know some of you are like, private tutoring is so expensive. It is for a lot of people. But here's what I'm going to say. Expensive private tutors aren't the only way you can get private tutoring. And even if you're low income, and even if you don't have a lot of resources, if you feel like you need help, other options exist. And as somebody who has been a tutor for a long time, I can kind of tell you where those pockets are and how to find them. One thing is always reach out to people that you know. Are there smart high school students? If you have a middle schooler and you're a parent, are there smart high school students that live down the street from you that you could peg and say, hey, would you tutor my daughter in algebra 3 days a week and I'll pay you, a little bit of money? Cool. It's more fun than babysitting. That's one way. 2, do you know any college students? Do you have college students in your family? And again, if you have a little bit of money to pay, but not a lot, right, you can often negotiate with college students if they're a friend of the family or just someone you know. Or if that's even out of range, there are a lot of nonprofit organizations and volunteer tutoring organizations that are out there. So in the blog post that goes with this video, I'm going to list some resources that I have found online. And I would encourage you guys, if you know of other resources, feel free to comment in the comments and share them with other people. I also know if you're in the boat of well, I don't really need tutoring and I'm doing just fine, Brooke, but I found this video interesting and I love to watch your videos, you can actually go out and tutor other kids and help these kind of organizations. So I would encourage you can reach out to individual schools in your neighborhood or in your communities that might need tutors. If you want to be a tutor and say, hey, I want to tutor elementary school kids for free, or for donations that I then will donate back to, help buy gear for kids who are struggling with distance learning because they don't have the money to buy computers or something, right? But in any case, one-on-one instruction is awesome, and it's one of the best ways to improve if you're able to manage to get a hold of it. Cool. Number two, second thing that we can do about this is make sure you have the right gear. I know in terms of not having good Wi-Fi or a good computer, or I know some kids are watching Zoom classes on their phones. That is not ideal, right? On a laptop where you can make it really big, where you can make it like keep your attention, that's going to be a much better sort of venue to be doing your Zoom classes. So I encourage you to try to get the right gear. That means get a laptop that doesn't break all the time, get a set of headphones, especially if you live in a household with lots of other kids trying to distance learn or whatever it is. And if you can't afford something, find creative ways to reach out and ask questions and look for resources and get help. I have a friend who I went to film school with, and growing up in high school, she was homeless for a time. And she started a charity, which is super awesome, which is called Homeless to Higher Ed, which you guys can all go check out if you're interested. But she told me something which I thought was really interesting, which is that one of the lessons that she learned in her life is don't be afraid to ask for help. Because if you ask for help, people will help you. So if that's the bucket that you guys are in, please ask for help. Please know that there are people out there who will help you, and it might not be the easiest thing to always find them. But if you look, you can find them. And that could be, you could ask your own school, right? Do you have any resources for students? You could get on the internet and ask people you know, whether that's a GoFundMe or check out groups on Facebook. Like in my neighborhood, we have this like buy nothing group. And basically if you need something or if you have something, you can post it. And while it's kind of obnoxious to like post on there like, hey, does anyone have a Ferrari they want to give me? Not happening. It's totally kosher to say, hey, I'm a student and my parents lost their job from COVID and my computer keeps breaking and it's really hard for me to log onto my classes and I keep having to watch them on my phone. And I really would love a computer to use so that I can go to school. I am pretty sure somebody's gonna find a computer in their closet to let you borrow for the next 9 months or year or 2 years or whatever it is. Or they will be happy to try to point you in the direction of somebody who can help. So don't underestimate the power of a community. Don't underestimate the power of asking for help. Please ask for help and get the gear, get the right gear you need. Third, ask questions. I know with distance learning, it's kind of hard to ask questions. It's hard to like engage, but reach out to your teachers, email them, message them, IM them, whatever it is, and ask for help if you need it. I know it's a lot harder to ask for help when you're not in person learning, and that's probably why D's and F's are on the rise. But it's up to you to take that initiative as a student, if you are a student, to do that. Number 4, hone your study habits. Again, I realize that COVID-19 and distance learning and all this stuff, it's not your fault, okay? But I am saying no matter whose fault it is, you can take action as a student and do better. What does that mean? It means when you're taking notes, if you are on a laptop, don't type your notes, handwrite them. Handwriting improves retention over writing them on your computer. I know you're all learning on your computers. It might be tempting to just pull up a Google Doc and take notes on the Google Doc. You're not going to learn as effectively necessarily as if you handwrite your notes. If you're taking them on a tablet, then you can get a pen that works with a tablet. I prefer pen and paper, but like if you can't do pen and paper for some reason, at least get a tablet with a pen if you can afford it. Otherwise, paper. It's not that expensive. Hopefully you can get a hold of a notebook. Next, make sure you keep an assignment calendar with all your due dates. I recommend doing that also on paper. I know a lot of you do it on your phones and things like that, and that's cool. But with coronavirus, you guys are probably sitting in your room and going nowhere. So it's easier to manage paper. You don't have to go back and forth to school. You're not losing stuff if your problem is distance learning. So make sure that you keep your calendar, you write down everything that's due, you keep track of everything, and you stay on the ball and you do your homework, okay? And then schedule your studying. Sometimes I find it's harder to be on top of things when you're less busy. Meaning if you don't have after school activities and you don't have just 2 hours of time where you're gonna sandwich this one particular task, it can be harder to plan those tasks. So don't let that be you. Make sure that you're on top of your studies, make sure that you're learning what you need to learn, read the books that you need to read, do the assignments that you need to do, and stay on top of things. I know it's easy to get lethargic. I know it's sad to not be seeing your friends and not feeling plugged into the world, but again, this is your future on the line, and I want to cheer you guys on, and I want to try to help you guys be the best and most awesome students you can be despite the circumstances. So there you go. Those are my tips, given that grades are dropping. I hope you guys like this video. If so, please give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to our channel if you haven't yet, and I will see you guys next time. Stay safe, stay healthy. Ciao, ciao for now. Bye.